Well, that's going to do it for our Jets talk. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. So let's move over now, talk some New York football Giants. Of course, they had a brutal loss at the hands of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, falling 30-10 on Monday Night Football. Daniel Jones remains winless in primetime games. And then, of course, following the loss, the Giants fired offensive coordinator Jason Garrett on Tuesday. New York will be playing host to the Eagles on Sunday at 1 o'clock at MetLife Stadium. Just another brutal performance for the Giants, another brutal day in New York football. Mike, I want to hear your thoughts, and we'll preview the Eagles game, of course, but, I want to hear your thoughts kind of on the loss. And then Jason Garrett. I mean, Daniel Jones also had a really bad game. This Giants defense had a really bad game. I mean, on that opening drive, they never got Tampa Bay to a third down. It was first and second downs all the way down the field for the Buccaneers. So really just a putrid performance in prime time on Monday Night Football. So, Mike, let's start off with a game recap and the Jason Garrett situation. And in a bit, I guess we'll talk some Eagles.
Yeah, so you mentioned that first drive, brutal start to this game. Tom Brady took him down the field effortlessly. That's a hard word to say, in my opinion. And the Giants defense just didn't even look like they showed up for the game. It's like they were still sleeping. They were out without Logan Ryan because he was on COVID protocol, which is a huge loss because he's the one who knows Tom Brady the best. And he's the one who is going to take that defense to where they need to go, especially with a lethal offense like the Bucs have. And even the offense wasn't clicking. Like Saquon Barkley's first game back, 6 carries, 25 yards. And I think I'm at this point. It's been a topic of conversation. I think Saquon Barkley, I supported the number 2 pick when we got him. I supported taking him at number 2. I supported him. I still support him. I think he's a great player. I'm at the point where I think that pick was a huge waste of a draft pick. There was no way we should have taken him. And I think he can succeed, but he is not going to succeed in this Giants organization. I'm at that point. He's not going to succeed. Daniel Jones isn't going to succeed. If you're on this Giants team, you're pretty much set up to fail at this point. I mean, firing Jason Garrett, I feel like had to happen. I'm surprised it happened mid-season. I if it was going to happen, I thought it would happen during the bye, and they do it right after.
They do it on a short week. I mean, obviously, Monday Night Football is not, it's like you're going to play a Thursday, but it still doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Short week, and Joe Judge did kind of throw him under the bus, saying that the players are just doing what they're told and stuff like that. And it's funny because everyone talked about Pat Shurmur and how bad he was, but in Pat Shurmur's offense, Daniel Jones threw 24 touchdown passes in his 12 games as a rookie and has thrown 20 touchdown passes in 24 games over 2 years with Jason Garrett. So there was clearly a coaching issue, an offensive coordinator issue. But this team in general, man, they just do not seem like they're ready. And I'm a supporter of Daniel Jones. I think he's a good quarterback, and I think he can be the Giants quarterback. But at this point, you fire Jason Garrett, and everyone wants Gettleman gone, and everyone thinks Gettleman should be gone. And at that point, if Gettleman's gone, if Jason Garrett's gone, get Joe Judge out of there. Get Daniel Jones out of there. Get Saquon Barkley out of there. You just got to build from the bottom up, man. If we're getting all new coaches, I don't want any of these old draft picks that we had. I get rid of Jones, get rid of Barkley. Saquon hasn't done much so far for us. He's always injured. Just start over. Like that's what this team needs. They need a general manager, a coach who do the entire recruiting process and get the coaches they want, get the players they're interested in. Because Jason Garrett is the only coach who wasn't really connected with Joe Judge, who wasn't brought on by Judge. So I think there was something always there with those two, but this was a move that kind of had to be done. I'm sure you guys saw it on Twitter, that 3rd and 2 play that Jason Garrett called up, where all 3 receivers crossed into the middle and they were standing there. Where is he supposed to get that ball to? They had one receiver going out deep on the left side, but they had a deep safety in the corner right on him. So he had nowhere to throw the ball. And that all comes from the play calling from Jason Garrett. It just doesn't make sense, like where he comes up with what he wants to do.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is, look, I think you bring up some really valid points. I think you mentioned it already. Daniel Jones' best season by far was his rookie year under the play calling of Pat Shurmur. Now, whether or not Pat Shurmur is a good head coach, that's another discussion. But obviously, his offensive play calling for Daniel Jones worked out, was a lot better, for number 10 than it was and is under Jason Garrett. The one thing that I found kind of strange, and look, I know we want to lay a lot of blame at the feet of Jason Garrett because he's the one calling the plays. But at the end of the day, I mean, you got to put this as a reflection of the head coach as well. I mean, also the head coach comes out here in his press conference and he says something like, and I'm paraphrasing here, so it's not an exact quote, but he was asked who's going to have the play calling duties going forward. And obviously, it's going to be Freddie Kitchens. but he said something like, "Oh, it's going to be a collaborative effort." I mean, what are we doing
Yep.
here? I mean,
He said it's going to be a collaborative offensive effort. And then he was followed up with the question, are you going to be doing the play calling? And he said, it's definitely not out of the picture. So
I mean, this is what I'm saying. I don't know. Again, it's just another problem with these Belichick assistants who think they're Bill, so they think they can play games with the media, but they're not. There's only one Bill Belichick, and I could run down the list for you: Mangini, Bill O'Brien, Josh McDaniels, Brian Flores. Now, just name them. I mean, there's never been an assistant that's worked out. Matt Patricia. Well, it's just this is another example of a guy who thinks he's smarter than everyone else. He thinks he's Bill, and he's not. So whether or not he legitimately thinks it's a collaborative effort, in which case he's a moron, because I'm sorry, you need to have the sole offensive coordinator in the game of football who's calling the plays, or thinks he can just lie to people and do some coach speak and then have another thing. I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, I'll give Robert Saleh credit this for the Jets. The post-game presser, he was asked about the Jonathan Franklin Myers roughing the passer penalty, which killed the Jets and basically cost them a chance to maybe tie the game at the end. He just plain English says unacceptable. And that's what you need to hear from a coach. You just need to be honest, especially in this New York market. So, I'm disappointed in the way Joe Judge is handling things right now. I'm disappointed in the performance of the Giants. I'm disappointed in the performance of Jason Garrett as offensive coordinator. So, of course, he needed to go. But as far as Daniel Jones, I mean, Mike, look, I agree with you from this point. I think Daniel Jones, for the most part this year, was not the issue. I think he overall had been somewhat solid. And I think he had been I was, and again, look, obviously I'm not a Giants fan, but I thought he had shown enough, at least in the beginning, especially after that Saints game, that he could still be the guy moving forward. But now I think there are major questions. And, I don't really know what the Giants are going to do. I mean, Giant fans are already fantasizing about, Russell Wilson. Could he come to the Giants in the offseason? Who knows? I just think that this team, I don't think they're making the playoffs. They mentioned that outside shot, the wild card. It's incredibly outside. That's not happening. So to me, you're looking at another blow up here. I think Gettleman has to go. I think Joe Judge should probably go too. I know it's only second year, but I mean, how can you hire a new GM and then force him to keep this head coach? And as far as Daniel Jones, I mean, look, I understand the play calling has been bad. I understand the offensive line's been bad. I understand players have been hurt, but those things don't make up for an excuse. Like, don't give him an excuse for doing something like, about to be sacked. Let me just chuck the ball right at a defensive lineman who intercepts it. I mean, what are we doing? I mean, that just
went special.
Yeah, I mean, that was a Carson Wentz special. And there are things, Daniel Jones doesn't deserve all the blame, but he definitely deserves some, because his decision making, even in his rookie year, was suspect. And honestly, where we are with Daniel Jones 3 years in reminds me so much of where we were with Sam Darnold last year. Honestly, you look at their stat lines in terms of turnovers, in terms of touchdowns, they're practically identical. So I don't know. To me, it seems what we're approaching here, and Quiggs, I want to hear your thoughts before we preview the Eagles game this Sunday. We're approaching another Giant fans don't want to hear this, another rebuild.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. Russell Wilson's not going to sign on to a team with Joe Judge as the head coach.
That's true.
So, I mean, I thought that was a ludicrous hire from the get-go. Obviously, he was not even close to the most qualified candidate for, a head coaching job. He's a wide receivers coach. And even if he works under
special teams coordinator.
Yeah, special teams coordinator under Bill Belichick. Obviously, he's the greatest coach of all time, but that doesn't mean that that makes any assistant of his also gold. We've seen them fail all over the place. You named a bunch of names. There's only Nick Saban and Mike Vrabel are like two of the only coaches that have really had success after being in the Belichick system. So it's never been a good marriage, especially with Jason Garrett. Garrett was pretty much brought in like fully by the Mara family. I don't think there was really any inclination on the part of Joe Judge to get Jason Garrett in there. Garrett was, I think he interviewed for head coach before they hired Joe Judge. So, but a year and a half at offensive coordinator for the Giants after spending 9 years with Dallas kind of shows that there's, a bit of a different, there's a difference between those two organizations. Obviously Cowboys fans love to rest on their laurels, and it seems like the franchise has as well in the past, 2 decades in our lifetimes. The Giants have, won Super Bowls in our lifetimes, 2 of them. And, this is a team that is used to success on the field. I don't know why their first thought was Joe Judge for head coach, but regardless, I think they need to clean house. I don't think the Daniel Jones experiment's working at all. Obviously he hasn't shown really any signs of growth since his rookie year. which is not what you want to see from a guy that you think is going to be your franchise quarterback after, a pretty legendary career out of your previous quarterback, Eli Manning. So, that's it. I don't see much success coming from this current system that they got in New York on the Giants side. So I think, cleaning house would be kind of the move in the future. But as far as, this season, we'll see what Freddie Kitchens has to offer. I know that Joe Judge is saying he's a bit more aggressive with the play call. And he's a former starting QB at Alabama. So he's got more of like a player's eyes view.
Well, I mean, Jason Garrett was a quarterback in the NFL. I mean,
right. So, we'll see. This is literally what Joe Judge said. He said he thinks like a player, and Jason Garrett, he claps a lot. Doesn't have a lot of results on the field. So,
look,
it's not looking good for G.
I don't hate the Joe Judge hiring. I really don't. I thought it was a good hire at the time. Obviously, my perspective has changed. But if the Giants are getting a new general manager, there's no need to have Joe Judge as the head coach. The general manager should have full reign of getting a head coach that he is comfortable with, who he thinks can lead this team to success. And look, there's going to be no success if we don't fix this offensive line that the team has been trying to fix for the last 4 years. 4 years ago.
It feels like more than 4 years. It feels like
10.
We were talking about O-line with Eli. I mean, I don't even. But go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
There's 4 years ago, they come out. We're going to fix this O-line. We're going to do this for the organization. We're running out Nate Solder, Will Hernandez, Billy Price at center, Matt Skura, and Andrew Thomas, who just got back from injury. And Matt Pert has not played well at left tackle at all. I mean, that's why Saquon has what do you have? 26 yards against the Bucs, something like that. Yeah, 26 carries, 25 yards against the Bucs. I mean, for a guy this big, this fast and strong and great football knowledge, I mean, to get 25 yards in a primetime game, yeah, sure, off injury, but look back at his other stats, I don't think he's had a good game in a while. I mean, he's not going to be able to succeed if this O-line can't stop me, you, and Quiggs. So, I'm not sure how the organization is going to go about this, but in my opinion, I think we get a new general manager. They fire Joe Judge. They trade Daniel Jones. They trade Barkley, get good pieces. I mean, what's the point of this one? You can get a running back in the draft. You can get a quarterback in free agency or trade for a quarterback. Let's trade some of these big time guys for good offensive linemen. I mean, the team, in my opinion, no team will be successful without a great offensive line. Obviously, quarterback's the heart of a team. And it's just a step that has been 4 years in the making that they haven't succeeded yet. And it's just time to finally make that big step and get the pieces you need at O-line in order for your quarterback and running back to be able to do something.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are some really good points, that you bring up, Mike. And you mentioned the Saquon pick. For me, that pick never made sense. I mean, you knew Eli was out the door. You decided to take a running back when there were several quarterbacks available, some of who have turned out to be great, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. Who knows, maybe if Sam Darnold had started somewhere else, he would have had a solid career. Who knows? So there's that. And then, frankly, Saquon has not been the same since the injury. He really hasn't had an amazing year since his rookie year. I know his second season was okay, but so the Saquon pick to me never really made sense and still continues not to make any sense. You mentioned trading Saquon and Daniel Jones. I don't really know what you do at this point. I mean, what are you really going to get?
Not much.
The offensive line, not much. And the offensive line is just atrocious. I think that's just, like you said, we've been talking about it forever. Really nothing much else to say other than, it's just been beaten into the ground at that point, beating a dead horse with that talking point about the Jets. I want to talk about the Jets. That's how annoyed I am with all New York football, with the Giants, offensive line. And this is the last thing I want to say before I want to hear both your thoughts on the game this Sunday. We mentioned we always put the blame at Gettleman. We put the blame at Joe Judge. But, what about putting some blame at the feet of John Mara? John Mara and the Mara family have often been lauded as one of the greatest ownership groups in football, one of the great ownership groups in New York, and a city that's had some really bad owners, the Wilpons, Dolan, you name it. There's been some tough, ownership groups. And, when it comes to the Maras, you guys mentioned that the Jason Garrett hire was a Mara decision. And, as the owner of the Giants, you watch this guy coach the Dallas Cowboys with to disastrous results at times, consistently never get over the hump. and then you decide this is the guy we want to bring in an offensive coordinator. This is the guy we're going to leapfrog our GM and our coach and say, no, we want to hire this guy. John Mara, I think, wants to win. I think he cares about winning. Obviously the Giants are a historic franchise. But, at what point is he going to get some of the blame? Because, the fish stinks from the head down. And, at a certain point, it's not just always about the GM. It's not always about the head coach. The owner deserves some blame as well. So I don't know if that's a thing that you guys would think about as well. But real quickly, before we finish up this Giants segment, so we look ahead to this Sunday with the Eagles at home. Mike, you're a Giants beat reporter. You're going to be there. What are the Giants going to have to do to win this game?
Yeah, back to your John Mayer point real quick. I think there's 100% blame on him, and it's kind of funny when there's something going on at halftime at MetLife Stadium during the Giants game. He gets booed off the field from the second he steps foot onto the field until he actually walks off, and you can't say him anymore. The only thing the crowd is saying is booing him. They want nothing to do with him, and I mean, you can't really blame the fans there. I mean, you said it. It starts from the top down, and he's at the top, and it's his decision whether Dave Gettleman is still president of this general manager of this team, and it starts with him, and he has to make changes, or the fans are going to keep not wanting to come to the games. Some fans leave at halftime during the Rams game when they were getting blown out. I think it was like 30-3 at half. The stadium was half filled for the rest of the game. It's like no one wants to come and no one wants to watch those games with the leadership that they have here. But moving forward to the Eagles game, I don't remember the question you asked me, but I don't really know.
What do you think? What do you think? What is the key to success here if they're going to even have a chance in this game? That was my question.
I mean, like O-line. The O-line, same thing for the Jets. The O-line needs to do something in order to get Saquon going. And honestly, if the Giants want to win, I think Saquon has to get going because Jalen Hurts. I've been very critical of Jalen Hurts in the NFL. I think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback now. He has improved over the last couple of games drastically, and what he can do on his feet is very good. He has a good arm, can run the ball. And if the Giants defense played like they do against the Bucs, he's going to run all over them. But the offense needs to get Saquon going. He needs to get back to his rookie season and just have one good game. Start it with the good game. It only you got to take it play by play. Have a good drive. Have a good game. That can give him some confidence. Give the quarterback confidence. Give the entire team some confidence if you can see your star player get going. And look, this is kind of the Giants have dealt with injuries all year. I'm not sure. I think Sterling Shepard might still be out for the game next week, but yeah, Kyle Rudolph's questionable, Sterling Shepard's questionable, but if they can get Kenny Golladay going, man, he is someone that has so much potential. Obviously, he had played great with the Lions, but nothing really happened for him this season so far with the Giants, and they need to be able to incorporate him. And now that Jason Garrett is gone, hopefully start using Kadarius Toney the right way. The guy is electric out on the field, has a great arm, threw like a 60-yard pass Monday night against the Bucs. Wasn't complete, but he's a very, very lethal player out there, and he just was not being used to his skills and his advantage. So hopefully now with someone else calling plays, can incorporate Kadarius Toney more because I think he can be a huge part of this offense.
Yeah, I think one of the major areas that the Giants completely struggled with Monday night was on third down. They're only 1 for 9. If you can improve that in any way, obviously you're not going to win a game if you can't convert on third down more than once in 9 attempts. So look for them to improve in that area, or else they're going to get absolutely spanked by this Eagles team that's really heating up at the right time for them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you guys touched on it. My main thing is I'll be interested to see what kind of the play calling differences now that Freddie Kitch is in charge. Are we going to see more aggressive offense? Are we going to see better spacing for receivers? Are we going to see more targets for Kadarius Toney? Get your playmakers involved. I know the offensive line needs to step up, but the Giants need to scheme a way to get the ball in the hands of their best players. And if they can do that, maybe they have a chance. I don't think they do. I think the Eagles are too hot right now, but we'll get to pick'ems in just a little bit.